Once upon a time, in a small village nestled beside a great dusty plain, lived a young man named John. John wasn't special in any particular way. He wasn't the strongest or the smartest or the wealthiest. He was simply a kind soul with a good heart and a deep worry for his village. The village was called Amara, and Amara was often hungry. The soil was dry and cracked, and the rains, when they came, were never enough. The crops withered in the fields, leaving the villagers with little to eat. John watched as his neighbors, old and young, grew thinner and weaker. He saw the sadness in their eyes and felt their hunger in his own belly. It wasn't the kind of hunger that a little meal could fix. It was a deep, gnawing hunger that seemed to steal away their hope. One day, John, feeling particularly despairing, decided to walk further than usual from the village. He walked past the barren fields, past the rocky hills, and all the way to the edge of a whispering forest that the villagers mostly avoided. It was said that strange things happened within those woods. But John wasn't thinking about strange things, he was thinking about empty plates and hollow faces. He needed something, anything, to ease his village's pain. As he walked deeper into the forest, the trees grew taller, casting long, dancing shadows. Sunlight dappled through the leaves, creating a magical, almost otherworldly scene. John pushed aside branches and stepped carefully over roots. He kept his eyes on the path, hoping to find some kind of miracle. Finally, he came to a small clearing. In the center of this clearing sat an old, gnarled tree. Its branches were twisted like the limbs of an ancient giant, and from one of those branches hung a calabash. It wasn't just any calabash. It was smooth and round, almost glowing with a gentle, warm light. It was unlike anything John had ever seen. He approached cautiously, his heart beating with a mixture of fear and hope. The calabash seemed to hum softly when he came closer, a low note that resonated deep within his chest. He reached out and touched it, his fingers tracing its smooth surface. He felt a strange tingle pass through him. And then, a voice, soft as the rustling leaves, spoke. "You have a kind heart, young man," the voice said, "and you are burdened by the hunger of your people." John looked around, startled. He couldn't see anyone. Who is speaking?" he asked, his voice shaking slightly. "I am the calabash," the voice replied. "I have watched Amara suffer for many years. I have the power to end your hunger, if you use me wisely." John's eyes widened. "You can end the hunger?" he stammered, hardly daring to believe it. "I can," the calabash answered. "Inside of me is a never-ending supply of food, but it is not meant to be squandered. You must always use me with thought of the community and not with greed." John listened with rapt attention. The thought of having enough food for everyone in Amara was overwhelming. He imagined the smiles returning to the faces of his neighbors, the children laughing again without the burden of hunger. "How does it work?" he asked eagerly. "Simply speak your need, and the food will appear," the calabash explained. "But remember, young man, the bounty is a gift, not something to be taken for granted." John, his heart full of hope, carefully took the calabash from the branch. It felt surprisingly light in his hands. He thanked the magical calabash, promising to be mindful of the gift he had been given. Then, he turned and hurried back toward Amara, his feet barely touching the ground. When he reached the village, the sun was beginning to set. The villagers were gathered, their faces drawn and tired. John held the calabash high in the air. "Friends," he cried, "I have found a way to end our hunger." He then explained everything that had happened, from his walk in the woods to the talking calabash. The villagers listened with disbelief at first, but as they looked at his wide eyes and earnest face and the glow that seemed to emanate from the object in his hands, a small flicker of hope began to spark within them. "Is it true?" an old woman asked, her voice weak. "Is it really true?" "Let's see," John said, his voice filled with excitement. He paused, thinking carefully. "I need a big bowl of steaming stew, enough for everyone in Amara." Instantly, the calabash began to hum again, louder this time. It began to glow even brighter, and then, right before their eyes, a bowl of delicious-smelling stew appeared in the center of the calabash. The aroma was thick with spices and vegetables, and it was more tempting than anything they had smelled in years. The villagers gasped. The women, children, even the oldest and most skeptical stared in wonder. It was real, truly real. John carefully ladled the stew into bowls, giving each person a generous portion. They ate quietly at first, savoring every bite. The taste of warm, nourishing food was almost forgotten in their memories. But now the memories flood back as they ate with delight. Then, laughter erupted as they felt their strength begin to return. For the first time in what felt like forever, hunger was not their focus. They felt strong, they felt happy, they felt alive. The days that followed were filled with food and joy. John used the calabash wisely, providing the village with enough food so everyone could be well and healthy. He made sure that each family had what they needed, and he taught others that this source of food was a gift, and they must never take it for granted. Soon, the village began to change. The children played with energy and vitality. The adults had the strength to start working in the fields again. They began to try to plant new crops, ones that they had not been able to grow because they had been too weak to work the land. They spent hours digging and planting, fueled by the food from the calabash. Word of the magic calabash spread to neighboring villages. Some came to Amara to see the miracle for themselves, and John made sure to share the calabash's abundance with them as well. He knew that the gift was meant for everyone, not just for Amara. He realized that he could not single-handedly end world hunger, but his heart warmed at the idea that he could bring a little bit of relief and joy to the areas near him. Years passed. Amara grew and thrived. The fields were once again green, and the village was filled with laughter and hope. John, now an older man, still treated the calabash with the same respect he had always shown it. He continued to use it wisely, never forgetting the lessons he had learned about kindness, humility, and the importance of sharing. One day, John decided to go back to the Whispering Forest, where he had first found the calabash. He wanted to thank the calabash for the wonderful gift it had given to him and his people. He found the tree where the calabash had hung, and he spoke to it. "Thank you," John said, his voice filled with gratitude. "Thank you for ending our hunger. Thank you for bringing hope back to Amara." The tree rustled its leaves in response, and John felt a deep sense of peace. He knew that the calabash would continue to provide for his village. He also knew that the true magic wasn't just in the calabash, but in the community, the kindness, the cooperation, and the sharing it had inspired.